Hi all, welcome to the September CALS Comm workshop. Today we are talking about making the move, Gutenberg and NC State web platform for CALS WordPress websites. And we are joined today by Kiana Coleman, and Kiana is currently serving as the Interim Chief Communication Officer for the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences. Thanks so much, Kiana. This information will be available shortly on our YouTube channel, and also I'll send out the slide deck shortly. If you have questions, please drop them into the chat. And as a quick preview, for next month, we're going to be talking about MailChimp, and that will be on October 6th. Let me double check. October 6th. So take it over, Kiana. Thanks for joining us today.
Good morning, everyone. I think you have a few more people in the waiting room. Oh, did you click them in? Okay, cool. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining this workshop on websites. I'm really happy to have everyone here. I see a lot of department communicators here. Good to see all that. Today, we're going to be talking about websites. As Janine mentioned, I'm currently serving in the role of Interim Chief Communications Officer. However, I've been with CALS for about 6 years now, and when I started, one of my first primary responsibilities was to lead the transition of all the department websites into what we call a massive multi-site environment under WordPress and under CALS. And fast forward 6 years later, and here we are again. We are now partnering with CALS IT yet again to lead another massive transition of all of our websites under that multi-site environment. So I thought it would be really beneficial as we go through this process over the next year to get everyone together to have a conversation and kind of talk about, what we've been learning as we've been doing this process with different sites, some of the pain points, some of the learning lessons, and give you all an idea of kind of the expectations of the migration process, and then also what you can look forward to with the new website. So with that said, Rebecca O'Connell from CALS IT is joining us. So if you have some questions that are highly technical in nature, Rebecca is going to be our point person to help answer those. And I can answer more of like the front end questions, more about the process and how it all will work. So essentially, why are we here? Because WordPress is retiring the classic editor system. Comm also will be ending that support. Initially, we were told 2021, it was extended to 2022. To be quite honest, we don't really know when that's going to end. They may extend it to 2023, but I think it's best for us to just get ahead of the process and start the transition as soon as possible. So we've been slowly making this happen over the last year. So with that, the retiring of the support, we need to really get all of those sites that are under the multi-site environment, as well as help those who are looking to make the transition in that new environment as soon as possible. So with that, welcome to Gutenberg and the NC State web platform. Apparently that's what it's called now. Before it was the NC State theme, and now it sounds like it's called the NC State web platform, but it's one and the same. It's essentially the new theme that works in tandem with Gutenberg. So many of you may already know what Gutenberg is, but I'll give a quick overview. If you are familiar with Squarespace, it's similar to Squarespace. It is a block-based content editor. What I tend to really love about Gutenberg is that if you are not very versed in coding, it is very simple to use and not know coding, HTML. Another thing I really like is that before, in the different websites we worked in, we were working in what's called the advanced custom fields system. And to manipulate and really show content in different ways, we would sometimes have to use short codes. Like, for example, if I wanted to display buttons like as a call to action, I would have to input a short code. And if you know anything about coding, if you mess up a part of the code, it messes the whole thing up on the front end. So I love the fact that this doesn't require us to use short codes anymore for like buttons and accordions and features like of that nature. I think it makes it much easier to move content around the page. You just simply move the blocks around the page and restructure your content however you like. One of the downsides is that it's not a live editor, so you have to hit the preview button to actually see your changes. You can't see your changes as you are making the content changes on the back end. So it's very important to hit that preview button to see how the changes appear on the front end. But on the flip side, it is very easy to edit Gutenberg in mobile. That's supposed to be a plus, but for me personally, I don't have the greatest eyesight and I need a big screen. So I don't tend to edit websites on mobile, but for those who do, apparently it's supposed to be really easy to edit with Gutenberg in mobile. So what is the NC State web platform? Or like I said, used to be called NC State theme. It is essentially the new theme platform. It has Gutenberg already built into it. One of the best features, from my personal opinion, is that it offers way more features, way more color and layout options to build pages and to really build out visually appealing yet on brand pages with your content. Not all of the blocks offer different color options, but many of them do. And it just gives you the opportunity to, what I like to say, customize your website while still keeping it within that look and feel of the CALS and the NC State brand, but somewhat making it look your own. So to me, that's the top feature that it offers. It will give your site a new visual facelift. Like I said, really give you that ability to customize and make it look really fresh and alive. And then what I'm really, really happy about with this iteration of things is that Comm is constantly building and releasing new features and updates to it that are really keeping in line with industry standards and web best practices. If you go onto their university web platforms and documentation site, they're always constantly releasing new updates to the themes, new blocks, new features to really help keep your site fresh and to give your content a really modern look and feel. So with that, like I said, we're charging forward. CALS Comm and CALS IT is partnering yet again. And the overall plan is that we are going to upgrade all of our department websites and the unit websites that live under this multi-site environment to Gutenberg and to the NC State web platform. This, like I said, this is a massive project that we're undertaking. It's going to take some time. We're trying to plan out the best that we can. We have a handful of sites that we've already completed. We're actively working on some sites now, but I really wanted to get together and share with you all what we've been learning as we're going through this process, what those of you who aren't under the multi-site environment, you're looking to upgrade your site, what are some of the things to look out for, some of the things that you might see, what you can expect. These things are constantly changing. We're learning new things as well as we're going through this process. So there may be some things that pop up, but for right now, up until this point, here's what we're kind of what we're going through. So just a quick overview of what we're planning thus far, kind of what we've gone through and what we're seeing. All said and done in a perfect world, with staff availability, with project availability, with project queue, everything going on with both CALS Comm and CALS IT, what we're finding it takes about 60 to 90 days from that initial discovery to launch, give or take. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer. Just different factors kind of play in that. But if we're, all said and done, focused, don't have a lot of projects in the queue, and we have that availability, we can pretty much get it done in a matter of 90 days. I think what is extremely helpful is while we're in the active process is that those who are tasked as an admin or a content maintainer of your site to take the trainings that Comm offers. So that way, once the site is live, you can hit the ground running and be ready to go in there and keep your site updated and current. What we found is, initially we were kind of taking on a bulk of the project to try to get it done. But what we're finding is it is extremely helpful, and we can have a much smoother and faster process if we have the help of the admins. So what we're looking at is potentially taking kind of a divide and conquer approach, where we can move forward with converting the top nav landing pages as well as the home page, and then look at how we can divide out the subpages. Like I said, it just really depends. It's a number of factors that go into how the approach is going to work, and we'll meet with each department, each unit, and kind of talk through what the best process will be. But what we're finding is that divide and conquer tends to work a little bit better and tends to get us to launch faster. I dropped in a link here, which gives an idea of the proposed migration schedule. Like I said, we have a handful of sites that are already complete. This document also is open. Janine says she's going to share this deck with you all. This document is open for viewing, so you can take a quick look at some of the websites that are already live. And then here are the remaining sites that currently we have planned. We'll probably have some more that we put on the queue, but right now, this is what we have planned. So you can look, if your department is on here, kind of see what our proposed date is. And like I said, we're going to be reaching out to folks and setting up meetings and kind of start to talk through the process for those sites that we have yet to get to. Okay, okay. How do I get back to? How do I get back to hold on, let me try again. Sorry. Technical difficulties yet again. So let's talk through what to expect in the upgrade process. What I've seen as we're going through this migration process with the different departments. So to start, CALS IT will set up an installation of your site. What we're finding is that it is not an easy flip of a switch and the site turns on and boom, there you go. It is a manual process. And so CALS IT will set up an installation, set up the scripts, and essentially what we have to do is we have to clone your site. So we essentially create a whole new site, and that is the site that we work in to migrate, quote unquote, I use that term, to migrate your site into Gutenberg and the theme. Like I said, it's a manual process. We have to literally go in and convert each page. So I'll give you an example. Let's see. Okay, so you'll see here, when you go into a page and it's ready to convert, there's no like click button, what have you. You have to literally go in, click where it says classic, and then you click convert to blocks. What it's supposed to do from there is then just convert all of the content. In a perfect world, it does that. Clean, fast. You hit save, you move on. What we're finding is, because this is still a work in progress, that sometimes this doesn't work as clean as we would like it to be. So for this particular page, it did, but you'll still find that there's a little bit of tweaking that needs to be done to get everything looking the way it should. But we hit the convert to blocks. It is supposed to convert that classic into it tries to find matching blocks for the content that you have. And then it does that. And then you have to go through, look and see what needs to be tweaked and fixed, do that, and then hit save. Like I said, sometimes that does not always work. And when it doesn't, unfortunately, then you have to go in and you have to copy and paste content into a new area in the page, and then work it from there. That adds additional time to your process. Unfortunately, that's something that I think Comm has been working on. I think CALS IT has been working on how do we make this process faster and easier. But right now, that's simply how it works. What I've also found is that there's a tendency, at least for me, I have a tendency to try to dive in once it's converted and I want to redesign a page. That just adds time to your process. And so I always recommend that departments and units start with doing a content inventory first. Go through your current site, see the list of pages you have, see what content or what pages could potentially be condensed, consolidated, done away with, and then work from a final list of pages that you know must be converted. If not, it ends up adding more time to the process. And if you're like me, who likes to go in and do redesign, it will stretch out the timeline. And so if you either focus and just convert the page and say, I'll come back to that and do the design later, or say, I'm going to extend this timeline and I really want to make these tweaks now, either or works, but the other method really adds additional time to what you're doing. I think something very, very important to note, and I probably should have put this first, but it is very important. You cannot make updates to the active site during migration. And I say that because, like I said, the site is essentially cloned. So let's say, for example, we clone your site. Today is what, the 9th? The 8th, excuse me. Let's say we clone your site on the 8th. We're essentially, and Rebecca, please jump in if I'm explaining this incorrectly. But essentially, what we're doing is we're cloning your site and all the content that is on your site up until the 8th. Any additions and then we're going to be actively working to convert the pages based off of what we've cloned that date. Anything that you add to that site after that does not get automatically ported over or migrated over. So either and this is one thing that we've been asking folks to do is, let's build out a period of time where we pause on any active updates on your site until we can get everything converted. Or if there are minor updates that if you kind of keep an accounting of them, you can go in after the site launches and then make those quick changes. But what we find works better is we build in a period of time where we pause on any wholesale changes to the website until we can get the migration done. That is just very important to note. For those departments that we're working with, we will kind of work through the timeline and have an understanding of this is the time period in which we're not going to make those active updates. And then we'll, move for it. But like I said, we'll work with the time frame in which it works best for everyone. Having said that, something else to note as it relates to news posts. News posts do migrate over, but like pages, news posts that are added after migration start, a hard lesson that we learned, they don't migrate over. So we did have an instance recently, we were working with the department where unfortunately a long list of news posts did not migrate over. And so we had to manually redirect and add those news posts to the site. So that's something else to keep in mind. And so we're trying to work through a potential solution for that. So one possible solution could be is if, because, you still want to curate news, you still want to, your site's still live, it's still out there, and you don't want your news to go stale. So we could work with you to kind of time out the news and, say, well, we'll help, manually add these news posts. We don't want it to get, too large and say we have to manually update, 100 news posts, but we'll actively work with you because we want you to keep your site, going as much as possible as we're actively working on this migration. It is not an ideal situation by no means, but it's essentially how the process works. And so we're going to try to make it so it's as painless as absolutely possible.
We have a question that came in about from when the cloning happens to when groups can work on the site again. On the new site once it's launched? Yes, like what's the time between when they take the pause and they can restart making changes again?
Well, it really depends on the timeline that we build. For example, we had one site that literally only had maybe 20 some pages. And so that was a very, very fast process. And so it was maybe 2 weeks when we were able to launch and then get them back into the site. For sites that are pretty robust, like I would say over 50 pages. There are some department sites that are swelling up to, almost 100 pages. We're going to have to work through that and kind of talk that out and see if there's a way for us to try to keep that pause time as short as possible.
Are there any short codes that departments can or should address, knowing that they won't change over to the blocks?
That is a great question. Yes, and I was actually going to point to some of those. Let me see if I can pull up. Okay, for example, this is called in advanced custom fields. For those department sites that have not migrated over yet, you have a field called your icon block, your CTA icon block. That does not, there's no one-to-one conversion for that. So we, looking at how to convert that if you want to keep this content going. And one thing that I have found has been the fact list. This one right here could potentially replace that. So it's really looking at, okay, here's a block that we know is a field that we know is not going to convert over. What's something that might look similar, or then how do I maybe rework this content? Another one is, and I don't have an example for it readily right here, but it's called the single tweet. What I found is not many department sites used that field, but it essentially displays one of your most recent tweets from your Twitter feed. That does not have a one-to-one conversion. So you'll have to either use the tweet block, which I believe displays your Twitter feed, or you might want to just consider doing away with displaying your Twitter feed altogether. But we can definitely share a list if there are others. No, there are not many, to be quite frankly. Most of them do have a conversion in Gutenberg. Let me go back. Okay, so I was talking about news posts. So yeah, we'll work with you and actively have conversations about the news posts, so that way you can try to keep your live site as current as possible while we are working on what will be your new site. Other things to expect. We just talked about this, that there are no conversions for certain custom fields. We will share a list of those. Like I said, it's very, very short, but most of them you'll be able to find, or it should be able to convert. And for those that don't, there should be something there that could basically fit the bill for you. As I mentioned earlier, I do highly recommend doing a content inventory first. If you need help with that, we can most certainly help. Kind of review what you currently have on the different pages and look at what potentially could be, like I said, consolidated, incorporated, how you can reduce the number of pages of content before we go into the active migration process. PDFs and docs. So we have to actively move toward following accessibility standards. So as we migrate these sites, any PDFs or docs, we will need to review and ensure that they meet accessibility standards, and identify those that could potentially be converted to web pages, or go through a remediation process, or simply may need to be deleted and look at some other format. Or look at uploading it as a public file in Google Drive. That's not, the optimal solution. I've done it for several files, but it is a quick and short, as opposed to going through what could potentially be an expensive remediation process. Some documents are pretty costly to remediate. And then lastly, we're not going to get rid of your site like as soon as we launch. Your old site will be archived for at least 30 days, more likely longer. I think we still have some sites in archive that we launched last year, but we will keep hold of your old site, because we've had instances where we had to go back in and grab some content or grab some pages that did not convert over, and so we will hold on to the archive, so that way we can go back in and find those things. So all is not lost once your site goes live. I think I also want to mention that when your site goes live, your URL will stay the same. Rebecca probably can speak to this process a little bit better than I can, but they'll do the back end work to make sure that your URL will be the same. We'll archive your old site. Your new site will go up. It'll have your URL, and you're good to go with your new live website. Let me pause, and I see some questions in the chat. Janine, do you mind?
Oh, I think they're all answered.
Oh, okay. Awesome. All right, your new site is up, it's live, it's ready to go, it's ready for the world. Just some things I wanted you all to know that we've learned, or not just learned, but some tips and things to know. As I mentioned, you have way more color and design options at your disposal to really.
Yana, I think Rebecca had something she wanted to add. Maybe.
Oh,
Okay, so with regard to the archived site,
yes.
so we definitely will keep a hold of it for at least 30 days and long enough to make sure that you don't need the old site again. It is going to have to come off the internet, like not too long after that, because we are very low on space.
Yes.
Please optimize your images. But even then, we have backups. It's just not going to be on the internet anymore.
Okay, that's good to know. So all is not, again, not all is not lost, right? Yeah. Thank you for adding that. Yeah, so I mentioned, like I said, way more color and design options to build your pages or to update your pages. Just keeping in mind that we still need to follow brand standards with that. Not, we don't want to have a rainbow of colors going on a page, just kind of trying to follow some design and brand best practices as best as possible. One key thing that I learned as I was actively going through this was about jump links, right? So I in the old advanced custom fields, the old classic editor, to help folks with sites who had a lot of content on their page kind of help users navigate across all that content on the page. I used jump links. I would, set up links to jump from different areas of the page. Well, in this new platform, that doesn't work anymore. Jump links can only be set on headings, H tags. You can only jump to a section that actually has a heading to it. And you'll see it in the block. It'll say HTML anchor, and you can put your anchor link there. But you can't just necessarily just jump all over the place. I mean, you can, but the section will have to have a heading essentially. For sites that are under the CALS multi-site environment, the 7-tab rule for the main menu still applies, where we have a maximum of 7 menu items that you can have on your home page. Another lesson that I've learned, while I'm familiar with Squarespace and I like using it, and I like using Gutenberg as well, editing can sometimes be a bit cumbersome, can be a bit awkward, because each paragraph essentially is its own block. So I was at one point used to, kind of crafting all the content in one little space, one area, and cutting, copying and pasting it all. It makes it a little bit, to me, a little bit annoying, more cumbersome anyway. You'll get used to it, but it essentially, once you hit that return button, it's essentially creating another kind of block space in that paragraph block area. So that can be a little bit, annoying at first. Like I said, it's not a live editor, so you have to hit the update button. When you jump off the page, or want to leave that page, it is very important for you to hit that update button to save your content. I can't tell you how many pages that I've gone, and even within our own team when we're updating the CALS website, where I'll go back into a page and it's auto saved it because someone forgot to hit the update button. So I just wanted to make a note of that. It's very important to hit that update button. For those of you who are using Newswire, I put this in bold, right? Newswire should continue to work the same. If you all, any of you who use Newswire, maybe have the same experience we have had, it can be tricky sometimes, and there's, bugs and errors that happen. Sometimes it doesn't pull in the featured image. But it should continue to work and pull in stories from the Newswire as it has in the past. Like I said, you still might run into a couple of things that you ran into previously to fix, but it should work. For the sites that we manage, we'll continue to manage those. We'll continue to maintain everything. We'll continue to fix any kind of backend issues that come up. CALS IT will continue to process theme and plugin updates. You all don't have to worry about the backend there. We will continue to do that, and as well as the hosting. Also, in the previous redesign of these sites, we built out this, robust guide to the different fields and how to work your website and things you might run into. It takes time to do that, but we are working on another guide for Gutenberg. This is the example of the one we did for the last iteration of the site. We are working on one for this new platform that should be ready early next year. Instead of dropping in a bunch of links to some what I would find to be helpful resources for everyone, I dropped in one Go link as well as a QR code. It is essentially a Google Doc with just some links of some resources that I think would be extremely helpful as you as we start to go down this migration process. Those of you whose sites are live, if you're looking for some additional resources, they're there as well. I want to reiterate that I strongly recommend, and those of you who are admins really need to take that those UComm training workshops. We don't necessarily give tutorials. I'll walk you through, or our team will walk you through those sites that we are going to migrate and help migrate. We'll walk you through before launch, kind of some quick, ins and outs about the sites, but the real in-depth information and tutorials that will be like extremely beneficial for you, you can get through UComm's workshops. I've been through several. They are excellent, and I highly recommend taking several of them. They have courses from beginning all the way to advanced. And they will help you get off and running to managing your website. So with that, I will open the floor to any additional questions, thoughts, anything they wanted to know.
So do you know if what we pay UComm for, does it cover the same for the departments as it does for CALS main site?
I think so. I think it does. Yeah, I think they offer the same level of service and product.
And that's paid for?
That is paid for, yeah.
Yeah, so it's not something that individual departments would have to find a budget for.
No, well, not for the sites that are under our environment, because we fund those. But if you go through UComm to build a site and use their premium option, they would support that, is my understanding. And then they would set up the hosting and whatnot. I don't think that would go through us or comms or IT. But I mean, we definitely, if you build a site that's outside of what we currently manage, if there's any questions or you need any guidance, I mean, we're here to help for sure. We wouldn't charge for that. We definitely would help, because we want everyone to have a good experience and to be successful. So if there's questions and you can't reach someone through the UComm's ticketing system, you definitely can come to us and we'll help the best we can. Or transition. I mean, if you have a site that you're working with UComm on and it's live and they're currently managing it and you'd rather transition it over to the college, I mean, we can definitely talk through that as well and see what options exist for us to help support that. I guess one last thing I would like to I don't know, promote is that we also offer, CALS, Comm, and IT have been working together on trying to offer an alternative outside of IT to help programs, those folks who don't necessarily have a robust, web budget to build sites. We're building out or have built out a platform that we call units.cals.ncsu, where we've been helping folks build out like lab websites, program websites. We don't host those in our multi-site environment because those are really for departments and for certain units like international programs, Agriculture Institute, PSI is under our multi-site environment as well. But we do have something that we've been working on to help those who may not want to go through OIT to get a site, but really just need like a real basic small site for their lab or their program. So you can contact us we can talk about that as well, that option. And that also, we've converted that over to Gutenberg as well. So that'll have the latest theme and platform.
So I have a question in terms of timing.
Mhm.
Is there a set like time for how long the whole transition is to take and in terms of like the department working with like CALS communications to help transition the different pages and everything?
Yes, so we'll share this out. So we've been trying to build out kind of what we have planned coming up. And as I mentioned earlier, that in an optimal world, it would be maybe around 60 to 90 days, but with the way the nature of how things are with staff availability and whatnot, it might take a little bit longer. So what we'll do is those folks that are still on the list for planned, we will come and meet with you all individually and talk through what that timeline looks like. And then also what would be the best process. Like I said before, we were
Seriously?
This time I can hear you, Rebecca, but Kiana's
If
frozen.
anyone heard that, it's because my screen froze.
No. Okay.
someone go on mute.
All right, there we go.
Okay, you're back.
But it's just been a little bit more challenging. So we'll work with you to kind of see what would be the best process and see if we can divide it out so that way we can get it up and running faster. But you're on the list though.
Okay,
Yeah, definitely.
thank you.
Well, Janine, I think that's it.
Okay, thanks, Kiana. Thanks to everybody for coming. If there are questions that come up afterwards, we're receptive to answer them. If you have questions after you get a chance to look more closely at the deck, reach out. And again, thanks to Kiana and Rebecca. And next month, October 6th, we're going to be talking about MailChimp.
Feel free to email me directly as well if you have a question. And Janine, you are going to share out the deck.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So they'll have the links in there as well. And then we can definitely reach out to me and we can start talking through the plans.
Thanks all. Thanks for
All right.
coming.